Good evening, dear students. Welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy, the Hindu News Analysis. Today is 7th January 2025, and today we have some important articles for the discussion. And one by one, we'll try to discuss all these important news articles along with one mains practice question. So, this question is about governance, and in fact, we all knew that governance is a very important topic in Gender Studies paper 2 of mains examination, particularly good governance and e-governance. Most number of questions are being asked along with the governance initiatives that have been launched by the union government to achieve the goal of minimum government, maximum governance. And in fact, the government has a commitment of ensuring minimum government and maximum governance, ensuring that the citizens are actively take part in the governance process. Along with that, all the social welfare benefits are reached to the citizens in a time frame manner. So in this context, in today's the Hindu newspaper, there is an article about governance, particularly so how information and communication technology would further strengthen governance in India. So we'll try to solve one question on that. The implementation of smart governance practices in India has the potential to improve the efficiency and enhance citizens' participation in the policy making process. Now, in the backdrop of this statement, examine various initiatives taken to promote smart governance in the country. And in fact, the government has launched various e-governance initiatives or other governance initiatives, so that could further strengthen the overall governance process. So these initiatives would make governance consensus oriented, and it also ensures participation of citizens, it ensures transparency, it ensures accountability, and all those important principles, right? So in this context, first we'll try to understand what exactly is smart governance and how it has the potential to transform the existing governance landscape, right? So in fact, in recent times, smart governance mechanisms have been increasingly emphasized by the government to improve governance architecture in the country, because the smart governance mechanisms increasingly using information and communication technologies, and in fact the rapid strides made in the digital technologies, particularly the last mile access and connectivity to these digital technologies, have made smart governance a reality in recent times. And as we all knew that government has been emphasizing on good governance, however, in order to achieve good governance, it is very important that we need to focus on information and communication technologies, right? Because information and communication technology or e-governance ensures efficiency in the administration, and it brings in transparency, accountability, doorstep delivery of services, and services delivered within a specific time frame, and citizens also actively takes part in the governance process. It would be consensus oriented as well. And in fact, the application of information and communication technologies for governance is covered under the umbrella term called e-governance, right? So e-governance generally means that all information communication technologies that are being used to deliver services or to improve governance or administration can be considered as part of the e-governance process. And in fact, we all knew that India is the largest democracy in the world. So apart from being largest democracy, so India is also largest country in terms of demography, but one of the largest country in terms of geography, or the geographic land we have. So in this context, it is always a challenge for India to ensure the success of these e-governance institutions, and also make sure that whatever e-governance institutions that the government has launched, they benefit the citizens and for overall economic development, particularly in the rural areas. Because if you can compare urban areas and rural areas, so rural areas are considered still backward. Rural areas lack employment opportunities, and rural areas also suffering from agri distress. Apart from that, the gender bias or gender justice type of an issues are also prevalent, and we should also take into account the digital divide as well. So that makes it more and more challenging to ensure access to these services for the people who are living in the rural areas, right? So in this context, we should understand what are the benefits of e-governance initiatives that the government has launched. Now, how the smart governance will benefit the people on a large scale, will benefit the communities and will bring in transparency and accountability, will check corruption. So we'll try to understand, right? So e-governance, whenever we talk about e-governance or governance using information and communication technology, so without a doubt, it would result in data-driven policy making or evidence-based policy making, because when we are effectively using technology for the administration, for the governance, we would have a huge amount of data, and we could analyze the data, and analysis of the data would give us important insights about the delivery of these services and targeted groups, leakages, corruption. So all these details can be effectively analyzed for appropriate policies. So therefore, e-governance without any doubt could result in data-driven and evidence-based policy making, because it would result in a huge volumes of data, and whatever data we have, so that data can be effectively analyzed for an appropriate policy or for an appropriate intervention by the government. And apart from that, it is very well known that e-governance would also result in cost saving as well, because a lot of government expenditure is very often spent on, for example, buying stationery items for official purposes and other different things. And so it also takes a lot of time, and apart from that, it also takes a lot of expenditure as well. However, governance e-governance or e-governance initiatives using information and communication technology would further simplify this process. There's no need to physically write those records. They can be easily stored, they can be easily retrieved, and the information can be effectively used to identify eligible beneficiaries. And we could also weed out the ghost beneficiaries who are existing, thereby potentially saving crores of rupees of public exchequer. And apart from that, replacing the existing uh, physical writing structures with the smartphones, or even providing access to internet to these government offices, can save crores of rupees of money for the public exchequer every year. And it also brings in transparency and accountability. It is also a very well known fact that whenever the government has been using internet, government has been using information and communication technology for delivering the services for the administration, e-governance would helps make all functions of the business more and more transparent, right? So they are open to public, and public can scrutinize those policies, the decisions that the government has made, and how the beneficiaries are being identified, how the public welfare benefits are being distributed across different target groups. So everything can be effectively scrutinized by the public, right? So this is how e-governance would result in the citizen participation into the governance process, and that is also very very important. And apart from that, accountability, it would also result in accountability, because when all the decisions which are being made by the administrators in is open to the public, then public will scrutinize, and of course all the officers would be accountable to the public for the decisions that they have made, for the policies that they have formulated. So therefore it would result in a proactive participation of citizens in the overall governance process as well. So this is how e-governance would actually benefit the citizen at large, and it would also benefit the government by changing the perspective, changing overall a view of the people on the government as well. So it would also further strengthen the trust and confidence of people on the governance process. However, there are various initiatives that the government has launched for the purpose of promoting smart governance, right? So it is very important that when we have the goal of bringing in smart governance, it is very important that we need to have certain initiatives, and we should give a sustained push to those initiatives, so that would result in the smart governance. For example, a mygov portal has been launched by the union government. So this mygov portal establishes a link between the government and the citizens, right? So in fact, it would play a very important role in achieving the goal of good governance. So in India, we have the goal of achieving good governance, so this is also known as suraj, right? So achieving the goal of good governance with the theme minimum government and maximum governance, right? So in fact it also encourages citizens as well as people abroad to participate in various activities. As I've been again telling that it would result in you know uh, participation of, or it is also result in participatory governance. It is resulting in participatory governance. Why? Because citizens proactively take part in the governance process. They take part in the governance process, right? So apart from that, an initiative called DigiLocker, so that is also part of government's flagship Digital India program, right? So this is also part of Government of India's flagship Digital India program, and Digital India also serves as a platform to enable citizens to securely store and even share the documents, right? So they can share their document, they can store their documents with service providers who can directly access them electronically. And apart from that, there's also national scholarship portal which is also been launched as part of the Digital India program, particularly to benefit the students. So it provides a centralized platform for applications and even disbursement of scholarship to students under any scholarship scheme, right? So this will benefit students from vulnerable sections, students who are deprived, who are marginalized sections. Now apart from that, there's also another very important government initiative that will bring in good governance, that is Darpan initiative. And in fact Darpan is an online tool, right? So this is an online tool, and Darpan can be used to monitor and even analyze the implementation of critical and high priority projects of the state, right? So Darpan overall it plays a very very important role. And apart from that, there's another initiative such as Pragati. So Pragati is also known as proactive governance and timely implementation, and this e-governance initiative aimed at starting a culture of proactive governance and even timely implementation of the government schemes that are already launched by both center and state governments by regularly monitoring the progress of these projects. And apart from that, there is also another initiative which is known as the Mobile Seva. Now, Mobile Seva provides government services to the people through mobile phones and tablets. Now, as per Department of Telecommunication, as of now, more than 750 million Indian people have access to the internet and mobile phones. So in this context, the government has been planning to reach out or improve the last mile connectivity of the people through mobile phones. So as part of this, the government has launched Mobile Seva initiative. The government has also launched Praman Jeevan Praman program, and in fact it is an Aadhaar based biometric authentication system for pensions to ensure social security as well as dignified life, ensure social security and dignified life of the senior citizens. And national e-governance plan, it is also known as national e-governance plan, and it takes a holistic view of e-governance initiatives all across the country, thereby integrating them into a collective vision and a shared cause as well. And in fact the national e-governance plan actually comprises of 31 mission mode projects, and which are being approved in the year 2006, but later it was integrated into the Digital India program. It is a flagship program. It focuses on e-governance, and ultimately e-governance would aim at achieving good governance, right? So with the theme of good governance, so that is minimum government and maximum governance, because good governance plays a very very important role in making India Vikasit Bharat, Vikasit Bharat by the year 2047, as we wanted to become a developed country by the year 2047. However, in order to achieve this goal, and even in order to achieve sustainable development goals of 2030 UN SDGs by 2030, good governance will play a very very important role. So within the good governance, e-governance will have such a potential to achieve these goals. So that's how you could actually write the conclusion, and you could also mention such a specific aspects in the conclusion as well, so that makes your answer more and more attractive. Now let's try to discuss some important articles which are given in the different newspapers. The first article is about the human meta Nemo virus. So this is also recently in news because of the concerns that concerns that this would become a pandemic, and this would also create a same havoc like the COVID-19 pandemic that has originated in China, and it became a global pandemic, and that has also resulted in a huge healthcare emergency all across the world. So recently a Nemo virus has also emerged. An outbreak has also emerged in China, and in fact India has also seen some cases of human metapneumovirus. So because of its potency, there are reports, and in fact the governments are also concerned with the human metapneumovirus. Now in this context, it is important for us to understand what exactly is this virus, and where it is originated, and what are the basic characteristics of this particular disease, and can it become a pandemic, and what are the symptoms if it is affected, is there any medicine or vaccine available for the disease. So we'll try to understand all these essential aspects in this. And so the context is that we all knew that recently a human metapneumovirus has become a topic of widespread discussion throughout India. So it has actually discussed throughout India because of some media reports. So media reports are time and again coming out with details about the human metapneumovirus. And in fact, these media reports are also claiming that the emergence of new dangerous virus from China, leading to unnecessary public panic and misinformation as well. Right? So this public panic and misinformation would not be good, because it would further result in rumors, and rumors would also create law and order situation in different places as well. So therefore it is very important that we need to have a proper and appropriate information about the spread of these diseases, so that effective decisions can be taken, and it would not result in another public health emergency as well. Now, what is this human metapneumovirus? So we'll just try to understand this. So this human metapneumovirus, which is also known as HMPV, is a respiratory virus like COVID-19 pandemic. So this is also to some extent a respiratory virus, and that primarily causes symptoms like mild to moderate respiratory infections. For example, the mild symptoms of this human metapneumovirus, for example, sore throat or running nose, and even fever, coughing. So they are the milder symptoms of this human metapneumovirus. It is a respiratory virus, and it is also contagious. Contagious in the sense that it spreads from one person to the other person. And in fact, this human metapneumovirus also belongs to the Paramyxoviridae family, right? So this belongs to Paramyxoviridae family, and the same group of viruses that includes the respiratory syncytial virus, which is also known as RSV virus. So RSV is respiratory syncytial virus or para-influenza. And in fact, this human metapneumovirus was first identified in the year 2001, right? So in 2001, it was first identified, and it has been circulating globally for decades after its identification. And in fact, the most infections of this human metapneumovirus are mild. So whenever I say mild, so that essentially means that mild symptoms. Okay, so running nose, sore throat, coughing, fever. So they are mild symptoms. So most of the infections are, resulted in minor symptoms and self-limiting as well. But human metapneumovirus can cause severe illness in vulnerable groups. So there are certain vulnerable groups. So who are those vulnerable groups? For example, elderly above 60 years of age. So they can be considered as a vulnerable group, and even children who are below 5 years of age, so they can also be considered as a vulnerable group. And apart from that, those people the immunodeficiency immunodeficiency and they are suffering with the chronic long-term illness. So these are some vulnerable groups, right? So these three groups are vulnerable groups, and in fact, if the human metapneumovirus infects these individuals, there is a high risk of mortality among the vulnerable group. Now, how this disease transmits, and in fact, the transmission of disease primarily traced to respiratory droplets, direct contact with the already contaminated surfaces or already contaminated individuals. And even if you go close to the already affected individuals, so then also there is a high probability that this human metapneumovirus would start spreading from one individual to another individual. Now, what are the symptoms and what kind of a treatment is available for this human metapneumovirus? Now, as we have already discussed, that it has a milder symptoms whenever it is whenever it infects a person, it causes a milder infections unless he is from a vulnerable group. So vulnerable group, so there is a high probability of severe illness, and that could even lead to the mortality of the individual, right? So in fact, the human metapneumovirus symptoms actually overlap with those of other respiratory viruses such as influenza and even the RSV diseases as well. And severe symptoms of this human metapneumovirus in vulnerable populations. Who are those vulnerable populations? Children under 5 years of age, senior citizens or elders who are above 60 years of age, and people who have the immunodeficiency and they are also suffering with the chronic diseases. So they are being considered as the vulnerable populations. So the serious conditions including bronchitis, so that is associated with the lungs, wheezing, pneumonia, and even difficulty in breathing, hypoxia in the extreme cases. So these could be the severe symptoms which are being associated with the human metapneumovirus. So no specific antiviral or vaccine available, unlike flu or RSV. Right? So there is no targeted antiviral therapy for these. There is antiviral therapy already available for this human metapneumovirus. As of now, there is no targeted antiviral therapy or vaccine is available. However, so when we talk about the supportive care, so only supportive care can be given in the times of infection of this HMNV virus, right? So rest and hydration of the patients who are infected with this virus, and over-the-counter medications to manage fever and pain, right? So in fact, ibuprofen can also be administered to the infected individuals. So this is how the treatment is being provided. Now, what is the global and national scenario of this human metapneumovirus? So human metapneumovirus is one of the leading causes of respiratory infections all across the worldwide, right? So apart from human metapneumovirus, influenza and RSV are also other diseases as well. And in fact, studies have been indicating that human metapneumovirus actually accounts for around 5 to 10 percentage of the respiratory infections, right? So it accounts for 5 to 10 percentage of the respiratory infections in children and vulnerable adults every year. And Indian Council of Medical Research has recently reported that two human metapneumovirus cases have been reported in the state of Karnataka involving babies who are 5 years of who are under 5 years of age with the history of broncho pneumonia, right? So India has also seen the cases of human metapneumovirus as well. So therefore, it is important that the public health agencies needs to issue advisories, issue guidelines and regulations so that the further spread of human metapneumovirus can be prevented. And it is very important that we should focus on the vulnerable group of people because they are at the higher risk of uh, you know uh, facing the severe symptoms if they are being infected with this virus, right? So this is these are some details about the human metapneumovirus. Understand, this virus has no vaccine, this virus has no specific drug as well. And next topic is United States eases curbs to advance Indo-US nuclear deal. So recently, US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has visited India. Right, so he talked to External Affairs Minister S. Shankar, and he also talked to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So, in this context, some important advancements or some important developments took place with respect to India and US relations, and that is very very important from the point of view of India. So therefore we'll try to understand these developments in a very detailed manner. So, as I have already discussed, that US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has announced plans to remove Indian companies, which are Indian companies and even the government entities also, you know, to remove them from the list which US has prepared, right? So those entities are concerned because they manufacture the weapons of mass destruction, they promote terrorism, and they also cause serious threats to US national security. So these are the parameters based on which US imposes sanctions or US bans those organizations and links with the individuals in US and US government with those organizations. Right, so we'll try to understand this. So USA has been planning to remove Indian government entities, particularly the Baba Atomic Research Center, right? So that involves in nuclear research or nuclear science, and Indira Gandhi Atomic Research Center and Indian Rare Earths Limited from the US entity list, right? So this is the separate list that US maintains, and in fact this US entity list consists of number of companies and other different entities from different other countries, so which could pose serious national security threats to US, and they promote terrorism and they also develop the weapons of mass destruction. So in order to impose sanctions, US prepares such a list, and US has recently announced that it is going to remove the Indian entities from this list. So it is certainly a good news for India. So this move aims to facilitate collaboration between India's nuclear institutions and also US companies. So India's nuclear institutions and US companies would further collaborate in the field of nuclear energy and nuclear science and research as well. So that could have a potential benefits for India. Now we'll try to understand what exactly is this US entity list, right? So it is important for us to understand this. So as I have already mentioned about this US entity list, so US entity list actually includes the foreign individuals, businesses, companies, organizations, and they are subjected to export restrictions. And in fact, US imposes certain export restrictions on those companies, organizations, institutions which are part of the US entity list, and in fact they also require certain licenses as well for specific goods and even for the technologies. So thereby, the US entity list would potentially limit the rapid advancement of these institutions and in fact their cross-border collaborations as well. However, US announcement that US would remove these three Indian government entities from the US entity list would certainly be a good news, because that would further promote research and development, and that would further enhance the collaboration between Indian companies and US companies as well in the field of nuclear energy and research. Now, what is the purpose of US entity list? So that we should understand. And so the purpose is that it is being compiled by the Bureau of Industry and Security under US Department of Commerce. So please understand that this US entity list. So this US entity list is being prepared or compiled by the Bureau of Industry and Security, and that is under US Department of Commerce, and it aims to prevent unauthorized trade, and that could, so the unauthorized trade from these entities, and particularly that particular trade would support terrorism, and it would result in the development of weapons of mass destruction, and it would also result in the activities against US foreign policy and the national security interests as well, right? So in fact, India and US have signed a nuclear cooperation agreement, or this is also known as a civil nuclear deal, when our Prime Minister was Manmohan Singh, Dr. Manmohan Singh, and George Bush. Okay, so this civil nuclear deal has enabled India to access nuclear technology without actually signing the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which is also known as the NPT. Now, as of now, also India never signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty, alleging that this treaty is arbitrary in nature. And this has ended decades of nuclear isolation, and it has even opened the door for India's civil nuclear agreements. So India will have access to the nuclear energy and nuclear energy cooperation with other countries and the nuclear technology as well, particularly with countries like France, Russia, among the other countries. So, Indo-US civil nuclear deal. So, this is another area that we need to talk about. So, when we talk about Indo-US civil nuclear deal, so India-US civil nuclear deal signed in 2008. So it is being marked by a watershed movement in India-US relations. So it is a watershed movement in the India-US relations because it has resulted in enhanced nuclear cooperation between India and US, and that's why it is being considered as a watershed movement in India-US relations. And in fact, it has even allowed India to engage in nuclear trade despite not being a signatory of non-proliferation treaty. Now it is very difficult for any country to to be a partner in nuclear energy or a trade with a country like US without being a member of NPT. But India and US have signed this civil nuclear deal, and that has resulted in both India to engage in nuclear trade despite not being a signatory of the non-proliferation treaty. Apart from US, we also have such an agreement with Japan, and we also have such an agreement with France as well. So the agreement granted India access to nuclear fuel. Understand that nuclear fuel is considered as one of the efficient ways of generating energy, and it is also a less carbon intensive, so therefore that will also help India meet the obligations, the climate obligations, particularly when we talk about India's energy generation or energy security. More than 50% of our energy still produced by the coal. So coal is a fossil fuel, so when we use coal, that would result in emission of the greenhouse gases, and that would further result in climate change problem. So, however, countries like India have been excessively emphasizing on the nuclear energy, so energy that is being produced from the nuclear fuel. So therefore, it will provide us access to nuclear fuel, nuclear reactors, nuclear technology for civilian purposes, while committing to the separation of its civilian and the military nuclear programs under the International Atomic Energy Agency regulations or safeguards. However, there are certain technological constraints in India's nuclear program, so that is what we should have to understand. And in fact, India's civil nuclear program primarily relies on or primarily focuses on pressurized heavy water reactors, right? So it focuses on pressurized heavy water reactors using heavy water and natural uranium. But on the other hand, these pressurized heavy water reactors are becoming outdated because they are old technologies compared to a more widely adopted light water reactors. And in fact, in these light water reactors, the technology is heavily monopolized and dominated by few countries only, such as France, Russia, and US. So therefore, cross-border collaborations with other countries in these areas is very important, particularly in the backdrop that when India wanted to in the backdrop that India wanted to generate more and more energy through greener sources so that it could substantially reduce its dependence on the fossil fuels. And in fact, US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has also acknowledged challenges in trade that India and the USA have been facing, and human rights and rule of law. But he emphasized on the long term strategic alignment between India and USO. So, in the context of Indo-Pacific, both India and US are coming together, right? So, both for India and USA, China is a common threat, and India and USA also have the common vision and shared interests in the Indo-Pacific region. So, therefore, it has resulted in a long-term strategic alignment between India and US. And in fact, obviously, a national security advisor of USA has also criticized China's predatory industrial strategies. So generally in these predatory industrial strategies, what happens? China follows certain industrial strategies which may be considered as unsustainable or predatory. So those industrial strategies involved either substantially increasing its industrial presence in other countries or arbitrarily taking over the companies which are weak because of some geopolitical reasons. So he criticized the predatory industrial strategies that are being followed by China in sectors like chip manufacturing and even the clean energy as well. So China has been following these predatory industrial strategies, particularly in these two sectors. We all knew how the chip manufacturing and clean energy are very important for countries now, and in fact diversification of supply chains is also very important, because concentrating supply chains in one single country would not be good. So we already knew about that from our experiences during the COVID-19 pandemic, because that dependence and that reliance in one single country can be geopolitically exploited by countries like China. So because of that particular reason, so he also emphasized on diversifying existing supply chains. So supply chains in the sense that, for example, the active pharmaceutical ingredients. So India has been importing around 80% of the active pharmaceutical ingredients from China alone. And India is also known as the pharmaceutical hub of the world, pharmaceutical capital of the world. And it also produces, manufactures and export generic drugs throughout the world. So therefore, tomorrow if China says no, we will not export APIs to India, then of course India's pharmaceutical industry would suffer, India's exports would suffer. So therefore it is very important that we need to diversify our supply chains, expanding expanding to different countries. Now, in this context, he specifically mentioned that US companies such as Apple are diversifying the supply chains and they are extending into India. And it is expected that the companies like Apple will produce 25% of their total iPhones will be made in India very soon. So, this is in fact a positive outcome. So, there is a strategy called China plus one strategy. China plus one strategy. So, as part of China plus one strategy, most of the Western companies coming out of China, and they are looking for the attractive investment options in Southeast Asian countries, East Asian countries, and even India also for that matter. And he also stressed on a strong India-US collaboration to safeguard the critical supply chains, right? So critical supply chains is another very important area when it comes to trade, commerce, technology, manufacturing of different countries. So he emphasized on strong India-US collaboration to safeguard these critical supply chains and also technologies to achieve that Indo-US have a strong collaboration on critical minerals arena, and they are also collaborating in the quadrilateral security dialogue framework. So Sullivan has also highlighted the need to prevent the advanced technologies from falling into the hands of falling into the wrong hands. Particularly Russia is producing so S-400 missile defense system, and Russia is also in the process of developing S-400 missile defense system. So India already acquired S-400 missile defense system. So however, it was expected that US will impose sanctions on India because India has acquired a weapon. India has acquired air defense system from Russia, and in fact, USA has a law called Countering American Adversaries through Sanctions Act. So under this act, if any country imports Russia, which is considered as an adversary by the US, so if any country imports any of these goods from other countries like Russia, then those countries would come under the sanctions of CAATSA, sanctions of USA. And he also underscored a strong India-US cooperation for peace, stability in the Indo-Pacific region, particularly free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific is the objective of both India and USA. And in fact, both countries have a common vision, and they also have common interests and shared vision in the Indo-Pacific region. And the next topic is Indus Valley Civilization and the deciphering IVC script. So Indus Valley Civilization script, which is recently in news, right? So we'll understand why it is exactly in use and what are the reasons for the same. So in fact, recently, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin has announced that if anyone, any organization or any entity, if it successfully deciphers the script of Indus Valley Civilization, Tamil Nadu government would offer 1 million US dollars to that particular entity, individual or organization. So this is the announcement. Now one thing that we need to understand here is that Indus Valley Civilization's script is still a mystery, right? So it is still a mystery. So as of now, we don't know what is the meaning of this script. So some people say that it is an Indo-Aryan script, and some people say that it has, it has similarities with the Dravidian languages as well, but we don't know. But MK Stalin has announced that Tamil Nadu government would provide $1 million of prize for deciphering the Indus Valley script, sparking the interest in a 5,000-year-old mystery. So it is still a mystery because if we get to know what they have written, so we could know more details about the Indus Valley civilization, and that is very important as well. So Indus Valley civilization is very well known for its elaborate town planning, right? So not just town planning, they have used burnt brick, and they have a granaries, and they have a huge bathing site at Mohenjo-daro, and they are also very popular when it comes to a trade with Mesopotamia, and even the intra-country trade. And they have used seals, and they also worshipped nature. So a lot of things happened during the Indus Valley civilization, but all these details we get to know through excavations, but we don't know what they have written. So once we decipher the script of Indus Valley civilization, we get to know some details about the IVC. And beyond its scholarly value, the initiative by the Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin specifically highlights political and cultural ambitions, particularly positioning Stalin as a champion of Dravidian identity and counterpoint to BJP's ideologies. Now, I'll tell you that there are some prehistoric sites in Tamil Nadu. So excavations by the Archaeological Survey of India and Tamil Nadu's archaeological departments have revealed that there are some similarities between the seals that were found or the symbols that are available in the archaeological sites in Tamil Nadu and Indus Valley civilization. So MK Stalin is actually expecting that there are some similarities and there are some connections between the Indus Valley civilization as well as the Dravidian civilization, which took place either on the same time or or after some years of the Indus Valley civilization. And in fact, Indus Valley civilization script is also known as Harappan script, right? So it is called as Indus Valley civilization because some sites of most of the sites are found across the Indus Valley river basin. However, it is also called as Harappan civilization as well, or this is also called as Harappan script. And in fact, this is a collection of symbols. Okay, so the script of Harappans is a collection of symbols which is being created by the Indus Valley civilization. And in fact, it is one of the oldest writing systems in the Indian subcontinent that we don't know what they have written through these symbols. So therefore, it is very important to decipher the script of the Indus Valley civilization. So we'll try to understand other important facts as well with respect to this. So the script that they have used is known as the Postrophodon method. The method that they have, the method of writing of Indus Valley civilization is known as the Postrophodon method. So generally how we write, right? So we write from left to right, okay, left to right. But on the other hand, in the Postrophodon method, so they start writing from right to left. Okay, so this is how they used to write. So they start writing from right and then to left in one line, and then from left to right in the another line, right? So this is how they write in the Postrophodon method. And in fact, the script was used by the people of Indus Valley civilization about 2500 BC to 1900 BC, according to some archaeological evidences. However, So the language that the people of Indus Valley civilization have used is still unknown. We don't know what language that they have actually used, and there are no known bilingual inscriptions to help decipher it. So this is another major challenge. Because of this reason, we are not able to decipher the script. We are not able to understand the language of the Indus Valley civilization. And in fact, the script may have represented several major languages families such as Dravidian family, Mundari, Indo-Aryan, Sino-Tibetan, and even it consists of around 400 symbols. The script consists of more than 400 symbols, and the script has also been found on many objects including pottery, seals, bronze, copper tables, bronze tools, bones, clay tablets, so on all these areas. So, however, it is being said that these symbols are mostly used on seals for the trade and commerce by the Indus Valley civilization people. And in fact, so 60 percentage of Tamil Nadu signs had parallels. So as I have already told you that in Tamil Nadu also there are some prehistoric sites or archaeological sites such as Kiladi and Sivagalai and Tulukarapatti. So these findings have suggested that 60 percentage of the Tamil Nadu signs had parallels in the Indus Valley script. And in fact, around 90 percentage of graffiti marks in both regions were almost like comparable. So don't you think that while observing that there are some similarities between the archaeological excavations in Tamil Nadu and the Indus Valley civilization, they maybe there are some linkages between these two civilizations. And in fact, evidence of the cultural contact between the Indus Valley civilization that belongs to the Copper Age, and Tamil Nadu that belongs to the Iron Age, and even the possibility of direct or intermediary cultural exchanges between the people of Tamil Nadu or Dravidian culture and also the Indus Valley civilization. So there may be chances for that, and in order to understand, so we get to know when we are able to decipher the script of the Indus Valley civilization, and that is why MK Stalin has announced this prize money. And in fact, this announcement or decipherment of the script uh, of the Indus Valley civilization would have political and cultural implications of TN Tamil Nadu Chief Minister, right? So it is more about the Dravidian identity and also historical reframing, because Stalin's initiatives, actually with respect to Indus Valley civilization, aim to challenge the Aryan-centric narratives which have been emphasizing on Tamil Nadu's parallel development along with the Indus Valley civilization, Dravidian culture's parallel development along with the IBC, and even the advanced carbon dating from the Kiladi that has shown that Tamil Brahmi script dates back to 600 BCE, narrowing the historical gap between the Indus Valley civilization and the Tamil culture. Okay, so or Tamil civilization. And apart from that, so it has also highlighted the symbols like bull, right? So Indus Valley civilization also has some seals with symbols like bull and connecting seals to Tamil traditions like Jallikattu. So Jallikattu is a bull taming practice that takes place in Tamil Nadu. Right, so that's all in this lecture, and thank you so much. So if you like our work, please subscribe our YouTube channel and also hit the like button. Thank you.